and welcome. You are listening to At Home with Ifenu. Here, we'll talk about helping women know and understand their worth, find fulfillment in who they are, and in what they do. Every other week, we'll talk about your identity as a woman, discovering your unique purpose, intentionally raising the next generation, and your influence in homemaking. I am your host, Ifoma Nneka Omoni. Hello. Welcome to another episode of At Home with Ifenu. What are you up to today? Are you on your way to work? Or you are taking care of those beautiful children? Don't worry, just relax and feel at home, because today we have an awesome guest on the show. The topic is going to be an interesting one, so you can get your water, tea, coffee, or if you are driving, please concentrate as you are driving with your hands free and listen attentively. Your time and investment in today's show will be worth the while. So I have with me an interesting personality. Should I call her my sister, my friend? I don't know which one to call her, but she's all in one. I've known her for a long while now. And it's interesting that I'm having this conversation with her. So tighten your seatbelts as I welcome Tonye Oburoh to At Home with Ifeno. Tonye, you're welcome to our show today. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you, Foma. Thank you for the wonderful introduction.
She's sounding very formal. Please, just be yourself, because today's show, we are original and authentic. There's no forming here. So how are you, Tonye?
I'm very well. Very well. I was listening to you talking about how long we've known each other, and I was trying to calculate without giving out our ages, because we look young. We've known each other for over 25 years. That's someone's lifetime. For over 25 years, and despite being apart, in distance, we still remain very close. So which is a really good thing. But I'm very well. I'm very, very well. So I'm good.
Okay. So I'd like you to introduce yourself to our guest, because it's better our guest hear from you. Who is Tonye Oburoh? What do you want our listeners to always remember about you when they hear your name?
Well, Tonye Oburoh, every time I introduce myself to people, I always say that I am the most precious of the Most High. I actually am the apple of his eye. When there's an apple there, you want to touch, it blinks. God is very protective of me. That is me. My name, as you already said, is Tonye Oburoh. I'm married to one husband and a mother to one beautiful daughter. And I come from a small, neat family. And that's me. That's who I am and where I've come from.
Okay. So what do you do to relax, Tonye? I know Tonye likes dancing.
To relax, the list is long. I'm a woman of many colors, like my husband would say. 1 minute you wake up, I'm purple. The next minute I'm blue, but really good bright colors. To relax, I do a couple of things. I dance, like you likely said. Bless my mother, she used to say, every time there's music, whether you know what they're saying or not, my body just moves to music. I like music. I like dancing. It distresses me. Apart from that, I love to cook. I love to entertain people. Just cooking and seeing people eat, be nice, be merry is something that I've always loved. And then when I'm in that space, which is a very rare occurrence, where I don't want to really be around so many people, because I have that despite being hyper, naturally, I like to watch Netflix. Not action movies. I don't want to know who's dying, who's not dying. I just want to know. And my husband says, but they all fall in love all the time. I went, yeah, but they're different processes of falling in love. So I just love a romantic comedy scenes, things to make me laugh and forget about whatever is going on in life. So that's me in a nutshell.
So Tonye is someone I've always known to be herself. She doesn't know how to pretend. That's one thing I know about her. And I don't know if that's why I decided to call her today to speak about our focus for today. Because today we are focusing on being original. So we have today's topic tagged, "You are an original, not a copy." And in the world we live in today, we see so many people trying to be like other people. So many people comparing themselves to their friends, to their siblings, to their colleagues, and unconsciously the spirit of competition comes in. But I know that every one of us is unique. Even identical twins are unique and special. I keep telling my children that they are special and they are different from everybody. So what will you say, Tonye? Growing up, did you have challenges, trying to be like a friend? Or even as you are now, have you had that challenge of being authentic to your core?
I can write a book about trying to be authentic. Obviously, growing up, I grew up from a small knit family, and I've always been daddy's girl, even in death. I still consider myself that. But despite that, you have cousins who are doing great, who are, maybe first in class, and maybe you come 10th, and your father would say, "Have they got two heads?" Or, it starts from when you're little, like you get compared to, why didn't you come first? Or why didn't you have 100% in maths? Or why can't you speak like this? And then I come from what I call a big bone family, and people say to you, why can't you be slim like this, your other cousin? Or why are you so light skinned? Or, like you're just small short of an albino. You just get all of that. And sometimes it tends to put insecurities in you. And I would not say that I've not dealt with insecurities in the past, and sometimes it still comes up, I would say the demon of insecurities come up. But I think, like you rightly said when you introduced me, I am true to myself. Pretending is just not something that I acclaim myself to be, because I do not fit in being a pretender. And I've always had that comparison saying, be like this person, be like that person. And every time I try to maybe work harder, don't get me wrong, it's good to work hard, but just try and be that person that comes first. Or that person that is a size 6, maybe I'm a size 12 or a 14. I find that I'm miserable because I'm just trying to be that person. Like if you are someone who's gifted in certain places other than others, you know what I mean? If you've met me before, you know what my body structure is like. I would think, oh, maybe I should go and have surgery because I need to be like this person, because this is how the world sees that person. But no, I don't want to jump ahead of the game, but it did come to a certain stage where I had to say to myself, no, Tonye, just you are who you are. My mother always used to drum that into me. You are who you are. If people don't like you for who you are, then they're not meant to be in your life. They should just keep going and you just who you are. Because when you pretend to be somebody else, those relationships are actually not built on a solid foundation, and they will end up breaking up later on. So yes, the answer to your question, my long-winded answer is I've had challenges about my originality. And I still have challenges. People in this day and age in my profession say to me, why are you I'm a pharmacist by profession. Why are you a pharmacist? You should have been a doctor. I don't want to be. I want to be a pharmacist. What is wrong with me being a pharmacist? Or why didn't you study nursing? No, you should have been good at this. These are skills that I have, but this is what I want to be. And allow me to be the best that I want to be in my own self, not in anybody else.
Very, very interesting. Allow me to be who God has created me to be. So what would you say people pleasing is? Because we find out that some of us even have these problems back from home. You rightly said your dad was like telling you when you're younger, do people have two heads when they are doing well and things like that? So what will you say about pleasing people? Because we find out that people are trying to, there's this pressure trying to meet up with people's expectation, or we are looking for people's validation. We are looking for people to applaud us. When you enjoy maybe what you are doing and you are not getting the validation, your close friends are not really hailing you and saying, wow, you are doing well. What will you say someone in that particular stage should be doing? So can you tell us what people pleasing is, and then approval addiction? Because that is what the age we are in now is really preaching about.
Well, rightly say, looking at the word people pleasing, I consider someone who's a people pleaser as somebody who has a deep emotional need to please other people, usually at their own expense, or their need or their desires to want to just get that person to approve you. For example, you might want to rest on a Saturday afternoon. And because you're a people pleaser, you're tired. You are absolutely exhausted. And if you don't rest, you have a busy week ahead. But because you are people pleasing, and someone says to you, this is my perception, someone says to you, oh, can you come and help me babysit, or not help me babysit, or maybe come and, attend a last minute get together that you haven't functioned in, or factioned in rather, into your schedule. You're tired. And the right answer to say is absolutely no. No, I'm really sorry. You don't even have to explain, to just say, I'm sorry, it's not something I can do at the minute. We can always have another time to catch up. But instead, because you have that emotional need to please everyone, you then put yourself down and then attend this event, which makes you worse off. You're tired. By the time you come back, you need a whole week to recover because you were already tired. And then that damages what you had to do, what you have planned to do in the weeks or the days ahead. That's my perception of people pleasing. Now, going on to approval addiction, when I look at the definition, it's literally an intense desire to win the approval of others around you and avoid the feelings of rejection at all costs. Someone is trampling on you, trampling on your emotions, rejecting you, putting you down. But because you've got that addiction for approval, it's almost like, I would call it the word, like obsessive compulsive disorder, to just approve, get somebody to say to you, Ifeoma, you're doing well, Tonye, you're doing well. You do it, at the expense of your own emotions. And you don't feel that you're worthy until somebody actually says to you that, yes, I approve of what you're doing, or yes, you want to be a stay-at-home mom, or yes, you want to be a working professional mom. If I might go ahead, you're doing a great job. Otherwise, you feel like, oh my God, I don't have that approval. But no, we shouldn't. That's not how our life, our lives should be actually cut out. So I believe that, like we rightly said, that every person is an original. Everybody is an original. When you look at your fingerprints, there's no two people with the same fingerprint. Don't you think that God had the reason why he actually created us with our own originality? He created us with our specific fingerprints so that we are not like somebody else. So trying to get people to approve of us, yes, sometimes you may need that approval to go to the next stage, but not actually attaching your emotional self, your mindset, your mental health to that approval for your life to actually continue.
So what will you say about women in particular? I'm not saying that men are not also in this mode or wanting to be like somebody else, but do you feel women are more susceptible to this pattern or thoughts that we need to be like this other person? Do you feel women are more in what we're discussing today? And what do you think the reasons are? Why do you feel women fall prey more to want to be validated?
That's an interesting question. I guess they're different. Well, I wouldn't say that I'm not in that breed. Obviously, I'm a woman. But I think for some reason, right from playground, we've always had that, comparison. You've always been put in that position where women are supposed to do this, are supposed to do that. You get approval before you do this, whereas the men are kind of brought up, in my opinion, about take the lead, be the man. Whereas the girl cannot just wake up and take the lead and be the woman. She has to go to daddy and say, I want to do this, daddy, is it okay? And daddy will say, let's think about it. Do you think it's a girl's job? Give myself, for example, I always wanted to be a civil engineer, not anymore. And I remember going to my dad and saying to my dad, I want to be a civil engineer. And then he looked at me, rather than asking me why I want to be a civil engineer, I said, that's not the life for a woman. Why are you going to do civil engineering? It means you're going to be wearing trousers and walking down the street with all men. No. Nobody is going to marry in this world. And immediately that desire for civil engineering just died, because I always used to like maths and I still do. So I wanted to do, it meant that, okay, I don't want to be a civil engineer anymore. Maybe I should study law. Then I'll go to my dad and say, Daddy, I think I want to study law, and it's almost like you're questioning. Whereas for the men, I'm not saying that they don't go to someone for approval. They just say, I want to be a doctor. I want to be a lawyer. And they go, yes, that's a good degree, except maybe they say they want to be a cleaner, and then they call a family meeting. But if they call one course, most of the time, in our time when we grew up, probably now, because we are learning to be parents who sit down, understand what our children want to do. But in the time when we grew up, and a lot of generation, in our generation, the generations before us, we've always needed to seek attention. Not attention, to seek approval, that's the right word. And I think now you fast forward to the 20th century, and with social media, with so many things out there, you see a woman, she drives by you, or maybe her child seems to be appearingly well behaved for like 10 minutes. You then look at your child, you feel, oh my God, am I not the woman, the mother that I'm supposed to be? Or maybe you're a working mom like me who works over 50 hours a week or 40 hours sometimes. And then you see a woman who stays at home and is there for her children. And then you feel like, oh my God, maybe I should be a better mom by staying at home, or something like that. Or maybe you're at home and then you see somebody who's working class driving that Range Rover or driving or all these things. And then you start to have this insecurity inside of you. And like you're not good enough. And then we now add social media that shows all these amazing women. I have to say that social media is great, but nobody puts their dirty life on social media. Nobody is going to wake up with drools of saliva on the side and say, "Out my saliva." No, they would have a shower, they will make up, and then they'll take a selfie with a nice picture of themselves. And then you wake up, and
also add the filter.
Yeah, which I'm learning to use. They add the filter, and then you don't like the picture of yourself anymore, because if there's no filter, then that's not formal, that's not Tonye. So there's a lot of pressures inside the home, outside the home, in society, everywhere around us, that puts that pressure on the woman or the individual, that makes them not actually want to have the assurance in who they are. I need to go back, because obviously I introduced myself as a Christian, and I believe that God created you as you are, and we're special and we're unique and we have a purpose for us. And when you are assured in that uniqueness, then no matter what you see around you is irrelevant, because you know who God created you to be. You know why God created you, for what he created you for, and you can pursue it. There are people out there that we look at mentors, and we see their lives and we want to follow the examples. That's a different perception. And you see someone, someone like Miles Monroe who's gone to the Lord, or you see people like Maya who is there, and you think, I like the way she lives her life and I want to, emulate some things in her life. It doesn't mean that I want to become Joyce Meyer.
Yeah.
I don't want to be Joyce Meyer. I am Tonye. My parents gave me the name Tonye and added Oburoh after marriage for a reason. And I need to live up to that.
So what will you tell our listeners God's perspective is of their originality? What do you think God really wants us as his handmaid to have at the back of our minds, that we are original, that we are okay the way we are, that even if we want our lives to be better, we are not going to be competing? What do you think God's perspective is on being authentic?
That's a very interesting question, because God has created us to be who we are, full stop. He created Adam not to be Eve, and though he took Eve from Adam's rib, he did not want Eve to be Adam. They're different individual, and I think knowing everybody goes about purpose, but I think in breaking it down is actually knowing, why am I here on earth? It's not about, how many lives do I have to save, or what vision do I have to accomplish, but what is it? What is it? Because when God created you, I was listening to an analogy, I was listening to a podcast, I can't remember which, and it was talking about when the makers of cars make cars, they make a diesel car, and they say a diesel when you put diesel in the tank is what it needs to function. Or they make a car and they say petrol is what it needs. Or in these they make a car and electric is what it needs. Now, if you yourself now says, no, I don't fancy diesel, I fancy changing the diesel and then going to put petrol inside the car, or in your electric where you're supposed to charge your electric point, you get a fuel or diesel and you pour it into your electrical point. You close that tank, you go and pay for your petrol or whatever you want, you turn on the engine, you may start at all because you already have maybe some bit of electricity or some bit of diesel, but you're not going to go far, because the car is going to find out that the way it was made to function has now been altered. God made us for a reason. When he made Tonye, he knew she was loud. He knew she was vibrant. He knew she likes to be the life of and soul of the party, as you say, not necessarily party of the room.
Yeah.
When he made my husband, he knew he was quiet. He knew he was reserved. He knew that is what he is. So trying to make Tonye become Lewis is just going to kill me. Because you're telling me, sit down, don't be this, don't be that, don't talk, when people are talking, just listen, which is what my husband does. He's a very good listener. He will listen to you, and then you come back and you go, I don't remember that. He goes, because you were talking. You didn't have time to listen. Not that I don't take things in, but the thing is that we are all created. God makes original. He doesn't make a carbon copy. When he makes you as an original. He puts the gifts that he desires for you to have to sustain you in life inside of you. And that's it. So trying to now go and manage, you can enhance those gifts.
Okay.
You can polish those gifts. You can find ways to make those gifts come out and stand out. So believe it or not, if some of you would realize that I wasn't this loud as I was back then. Yes, I was loud, but I wasn't like this.
Yeah.
Because people have now discovered that this is the other aspect of Tonye. So she's gotten better. I've realized, I have a gift. People say, your voice, your voice, your voice. What is it about my voice? So now how do I enhance without making myself create an accent that I don't have? People will say you have a Nigerian English twang. I want my Nigerian English twang. I don't want to pretend to be an American and then halfway through the sentence, I'm sounding like a Nigerian. This is me. This is what you get. So not trying to make ourselves who we're not. When God has made us an original, don't be a copy. Be an original.
So what are the disadvantages of competing and comparing? What are the disadvantages?
You're going to bring my clinical skills inside here. I'm sorry.
We don't mind.
Your mental health will be distorted because you're constantly trying to compare yourself to somebody. You're constantly, my daughter, I always say to her, who are you? She says to me, this person did that. I went, who are you? She says, oh, but that's not what and I say to her, what's your name? I start, and she tells me her name. And then I say, and is that person, if I wanted you to answer Emily Shepherd or something like that, that's a name I just made up, I would have called you Emily and your father would have had the name Shepherd. But no, God knew that I was Tonye Oburoh first and then got married to Oburoh. Who am I? I'm Tonye Oburoh. Comparing myself to Ifoma is only going to affect my mental health, because I would just keep watching Ifoma and trying to ensure that everything Ifoma does, I do. Everything Ifoma does, I do. And then you lose sight of who you are. Of the things that are inside of you. But instead, if Ifoma and I have the same character styles, then I can say, I like the way Ifoma does this, and I would like to say, do I have that gifting? Yes, I do. Then I'm going to enhance that. Not by saying, Ifoma, tell me what you do at 6 o'clock when you wake up. Tell me what you do. It's not going to work. I like to lie in. I would rather miss breakfast than actually get up earlier because I work till late. So if I try and say, Ifoma is up at 4 o'clock, that I want to wake up at 4 o'clock, knowing fully well I've gone to bed at midnight, I will break down. So it affects our mental health. It affects our confidence, because you're not confident in who you are anymore because you're confused. You don't know who you are. It just affects you generally. And once your mental health and your confidence is affected, then there's nothing left.
How can you encourage parents, mothers, because mothers have the tendency to spend more time with their children, to start inculcating this spirit of originality? Because like you said, most times our children go to school, they come back and they start telling you what a friend said, what a friend has, what a friend is doing in their house and everything. So what will you encourage parents to do? And most times when some children are making this observation or trying to express themselves, their parents shush them away and it starts from childhood. This low self-esteem, lack of confidence, or being happy with who they are as children. So what will you tell parents to do to intentionally make sure that their children are happy with who they are from childhood? Their children are proud of who God has designed them to be. And I know, remember, you said parents now are relaxing in not insisting that you must be like the other person or you must read this particular course. But what will you tell parents to do so that intentionally there is a change, there's a shift, so that our children don't repeat what some of us adults have gone through? What will you tell parents that are listening today?
I would say what I say to my own child and what I do with my own child. I pay attention. I pay attention to her. I know I got one. Some people might have 4 or 5, so I can't speak for those. But I would say pay attention to your child. Structure time. I already work over 50 hours minimum sometimes a week. So it can be difficult. So I schedule time for my child. I take her to school and we talk about what goes on, how she feels. I pick her up from school most days. In that time, I schedule, sometimes I switch off my phone and just have time to listen to her. On Sundays, most Sundays are family days. We spend time, and she would remind me sometimes when I pick up my phone on the dining table, Mommy, no phones on the dining table. Because we're talking, no TV, no phones, we're talking to each other. What's happened? Why do you feel that way? And I remember, I'm going to go back before I continue. So I've said 1, pay attention. I remember saying something to her, which she threw back at me. I've just remembered it now. We were talking about eating and certain vegetables. She eats vegetables and she likes vegetables. Actually, no, it wasn't actually vegetables. I remember I made her semolina and okra soup. For those who are Nigerians, you know. And my daughter doesn't know how to swallow. She doesn't know how to swallow semolina or gari.
She chews it, like my own daughter too.
And I kept saying to her, it's called swallow for a reason. You need to learn to swallow. And she said, but mommy, I chew and I swallow. So the swallow is still in there. And that wasn't even the point of it. And I compared her to her cousin. And I said, look at your little cousin. Without knowing that I didn't. Your little cousin who's only 4. And your other little cousin who's 2. They know how to swallow the swallow. And you who's 8, you don't know how to swallow. You're chewing your swallow. And then she said to me, I am not, called her cousin's name, and I am not them. I am Shola Oburoh. And Shola Oburoh chews her swallow and swallows it. Mommy always said to me to be true to who I am.
Wow.
And I did not try to be anybody else. How does this make a difference to what you tell me? Wow. I was quiet because I thought, for how many years I keep saying to her, remember, you are Shola Oburoh. You are unique, you are special, you are intelligent. I have said that every morning before she leaves the house. That even when I, her mother, challenges her to say, can you not be like this person? She now knows who she is. That she says to me, that's not nice. You're trying to compare me to somebody else. So even now, there's certain things that she tries to get away with you saying, and I'm like, no, that's not comparison. I'm just saying that it's certain things from this person. But then on that particular instance, I actually sat back and I said, Shola, I'm sorry. Swallow and swallow your swallow. If you end up knowing how to swallow it later on, that's fine. But truly, you are who you are. I can't make you who I am. So that's paying attention to them, drumming it into them, whatever. You don't have to spend all the time with your children 24 hours, but the opportunities that we have, and I learned that from another family and I embraced it, the Oburoh Code of Conduct. We call it the Oburoh Code of Conduct. When you come home and I hear you were in trouble, she hardly gets into trouble. She's not a perfect child, don't get me wrong. And she says to her, this person did it. And I went, and she says, but yes, I know I'm Shola Oburoh. And I say to her, what is the Oburoh Code of Conduct? We're respectful, we love people, we know who we are and why God created us on earth. Remembers that. So literally knowing what you want to teach your children and going back to the basics. We are not who we are without God. When your children know who they are and why God created them and the special things that God has put in them and it's drummed into them all the time, then they are assured. They need anybody to say otherwise or anything else to them.
Very, very interesting parenting session there. So I usually tell people that children actually teach you how to be parents in the sense that through their actions, they remind you of what you are supposed to be doing as parents. So when you are telling them to do particular things, they come back and say, but mommy, you said this, or mommy, or you are not doing what you said I should do. So those are the kind of children we have today. Okay. So Tonye, before we round up today's conversation, I know that you are a woman of many parts. And I'm sure some people will want to know how they can reach you on social media. So will you share with our listeners your social media handles and any other thing you do apart from what we're discussing today?
There's nothing on my personal social media.
Okay.
So they hear my name and they go to my personal social media handle and it's almost like a disappointment. Like apart from a couple of family pictures, which when I remember I posted and it's there. Previously on my personal Facebook page, I used to use it as my ranting page. But then I've soon learned that I don't rant in the sometimes I do, but most of my ranting is done in the place of prayer. apart from who I am, and it's still a part of me, so I don't think it's any different. I'm a pharmacist, like I said. I'm proudly a pharmacist. I would never change that. And my specialty, as most people would know who know me, is diabetes and hypertension. And on that point, because I treat people that live with all sorts of diabetes, cardiac events, hypertension, and so on and so forth. On that point, on social media, they will find me as Diabetes Consult. So it's CONSULTS, Diabetes DIABETES. Diabetes Consult. So it's on Instagram, LinkedIn, it's on Facebook.
Okay. So, Tonye, before you go, I would like you to share 3 salient points you wouldn't want our listeners to forget about being an original, not a copy. But before she says that, I want to use Tonye and myself as an example. So, like I said, I knew Tonye back in the university. She was in Nigeria at the time, started university here in Nigeria before she left for the UK. And interestingly, we were doing the same course, but today we are still friends. We don't compete or compare ourselves. I just want to be very practical with ourselves. We are doing 2 different things. She's a career mom. I'm a stay-at-home mom, but we just still find ourselves, enjoying our friendship, enjoying our differences, and still connecting. There's always this meeting point. So I just want you to know that you can have friends that are not necessarily being who you are or doing what you are doing today. Just be you, just be yourself. So please just tell our listeners 3 things they mustn't forget about being an original and not a copy.
Matthew 10 verse 30 says that God has numbered every hair on your head because you are very valuable to Him. He made you unique. He knows what's all about you. In order for you to understand and know what it's about you, you need to know, 1, who you are in God. Once you go back to the basics. If you are a Christian, the basics is the Bible. Everything we need for the day-to-day activity and running of our lives is in the Word of God. If you don't know where to start with Psalms and Proverbs. Proverbs has enough wisdom to last you a lifetime. And the difference between wisdom and knowledge. You can have knowledge about something. For example, I heard someone say, a doctor is very knowledgeable about smoking, but he has no wisdom if he's a smoker. Very different between knowledge and wisdom. Know who you are in God. I'm not going to preach. And then when you know who you are in God, you can work on yourself and the abilities that He has actually created within you. He's gifted you with so many things. You know your ability. Whether it's baking a cake, whether it's cooking jollof rice or fried rice.
Like Tonye.
Whether it's entertaining people, whether it's actually giving advice, whatever gifts that God has given to you, work on yourself and your ability. And lastly, I'm going to say, you are born an original. Don't die being a copy. Stay true to who you are. Because God made you that original. If you try and change your originality and become a copy, then you're not going to fulfill what He has in store for you. And don't get me wrong, it's not because people keep saying, and I always correct people think that it's about standing on the stages and being represented on big platforms and makes a difference. I always say that my motto, Tonye Oburoh's motto, is changing one life at a time. You might be a mom who is training a prime minister who's going to change the world. You might be a father who is, let's not just go women here. You might be who is said to a boy who's got no father. And you change him, you position him into being a man that creates a change for his destiny or his generation, which would affect the world. Whatever God has given you, you are an original. Don't make yourself a copy. Die a copy. Stay true to yourself.
Wow. What a way to end today's show. Thank you, Tonye. Thank you for being true to yourself as always. There's no need to pretend. Thank you. We look forward to having more of you again on At Home with Ifeno, because we know that there's so much more you still have within you. Thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you, Foma.
Thanks for joining us this week on At Home with Ifeno. Check us out on Instagram at Ifeno17. As always, subscribe to the show to catch every new episode and leave us a review so we can continue to bring you fresh content. See you next in 2 weeks' time.